How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. Last week, I didn't realize at the time, but I was kind of getting sick. My taste was off, my scent was off, and I was trying to blend my Buccaneer Bob's rum. It was kind of a bad idea, but I needed to do it then. Anyway, I thought I would come back this week and taste the two blends that I made again. Now that I'm feeling better and I can actually taste this stuff and smell it, the safe blend of Buccaneer Bob's rum and the blend with a little bit more heads, a little bit more tails, a little bit more funky stuff in there. I'm also going to try adding a little bit of the clean backset back into these Buccaneer Bob's style. And I want to have a wee talk about the Patreon action because people are asking questions and don't seem to entirely get it. Welcome to Distiller, everyone. I'm Jesse, and this is the channel all about chasing the craft of home distillation and making it a legitimate hobby. So we make washes, we distill things, we taste things, and we assess what we've done so we can make it better next time. If that sounds like something that you would be into, guys, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss anything. Alright guys, like I said, I did do the blend for Buccaneer Bob's rum last week, but I was getting crook. My senses were off. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know that's why I couldn't taste things properly at the time, but it really did throw me off my game. As you can see from these bottles, I have enjoyed a little of my wares since that happened, but what I have not done is actually taste them side by side yet. Actually, I haven't tasted the more adventurous blend by itself at all yet. So let's get stuck in, let's taste these two side by side. I think that's a pretty good place to start the video. Just in case you're not sure, guys, or you haven't quite caught up, this is Buccaneer Bob's rum, which is a blackstrap molasses rum, augmented with a little bit of raw sugar. If you haven't seen the videos for those yet, I would thoroughly recommend you watching how I made this. I'll put a link up top for a playlist that'll have all of the videos about Buccaneer Bob's rum in one place. If you have watched last week's video, you would know that I was actually quite disturbed at how little flavor I was getting off this rum. I was really struggling to get much of anything off it. It kind of just tasted like a vodka to me. I couldn't get a lot of banana. There was only, I think, 1 or 2 jars with banana in it. I'll be honest with you, and I'm guessing you could probably see it by the end of the video. I was feeling pretty disappointed. But like I said, I have enjoyed a little bit of this rum since then. I've been looking forward to sitting down and doing a side-by-side like this. So let's get stuck in. First up, the safe one. This is mostly hearts. I wanted to take a safe blend of it because I didn't, like I said, I knew that there wasn't something quite right with my senses that day. Let's give it a whirl. So there is so much more honey, banana, butteriness on the nose to this than I remember. Not too much of anything else, really. A little, maybe a hint of something like red apple. Not really any funk. Maybe a touch of fresh hay and wet hay, but the real grassiness, the green grassiness that I got when I was blending it has gone. So whether that was me perceiving things strangely or whether it has just disappeared in that amount of time, I don't know. But I am happy that there is more banana in there than I thought there was going to be. Okay, interesting. So this one does have a little bit more of the more volatile sort of stuff towards the heads. And I think that in some ways cuts through the banana-iness, the butteriness. So that's not so perceptible in the more extreme blended version. It does still have the clove. I'm not getting any of that red apple, but I'm getting a touch of the molasses in there. The sort of the, not so much the sweet, more the dark stuff, I guess, coffee and chocolate, but just a hint. Anyway, let's taste this one first. Yeah, it's so much better than I thought it was going to be after last week. It's definitely got a little bit of sweetness to it, but the clove actually stands out quite a lot. Clove and mixed spice or Christmas spice, I guess. My guess is that is the yeast. It was a Belgian yeast. Honestly, it's fairly clean, fairly approachable, fairly light on the mouth. It does have a hint of Somewhere between sort of peppermint and menthol, which is interesting. Mind you, I do remember that in a couple of the jars now. I don't remember if it was in this one. All in all, quite enjoyable. Let me get some water and we'll try the extended version, the extra version. So straight away I notice it's heavier on the tongue. It's not oily, but sort of heading that way. It's thicker, it's more chewy, it's more viscous, but it also has a slightly more volatile or sort of, to be honest, headsy bite to it. I don't mind that in the rum though. So I've been told a lot of rums do have that, and this is very new, so I'm sure it will mellow over time as well. The clove is still pretty big and dominant. It does have a fair amount of banana still. But what it does have that the Safer blend does not have is at the lighter side of things, it's more tropical and fruity. But as well as that, on the bottom end or the back end, I guess, it's thicker, it's fuller, there's more molasses, coffee. There's definitely more of the wet hay, heading almost towards sort of horsey sort of smelling. Not the goatiness that I got in a couple of those jars. And a quick side note, I've had a couple of people contact me and say that the full-on goaty, barnyard goat, almost meaty kind of flavors is actually a very desirable flavor in some rums. That is not something I'd ever heard of, but maybe something I'll experiment with next time around. A little bit of white pepper, and salinity, I guess. And it has a whole host of sort of sweet, dark fruit, coffee, chocolate, caramel, candy apple sort of things going on in there as well. It's kind of interesting to me that when I was blending this, I got a lot of really green, sort of fresh cut grass flavors coming off of almost the whole run. I'm not getting that at all now, so it's interesting to me whether or not that was just my perception being out last week, or whether it was there but it's disappeared over the 8 days or whatever it is that it's been. Anyway, very, very amusing. Alright team, what I want to do next is take some of this dunder and make up a rum essence, which is what Buccaneer Bob calls it. But before I do, I just want to have a very small talk about Patreon. We've had a few people ask me about Patreon lately, and a few people worried about Patreon for Still It. So I just wanted to explain what it was in case you're not quite sure, and tell you why it's not something you need to worry about for this channel. I'm not sure how much you know exactly about how YouTube works in the back end, but it can be pretty easy to make a sustainable amount of money to keep making videos, and especially to invest more time and effort into videos through the ad revenue program that YouTube has. So essentially what Patreon allows people to do is to contribute directly to creators that they enjoy, and in return those creators or artists, musicians, whatever, are able to offer little things as thank you back to those Patreons. So yes, I do have a Patreon account set up, and I thoroughly appreciate the contributions made over there by all of the Patreons. Every little bit is very much appreciated. And while the money side of things is a big help, the other thing that's really awesome from my point of view is the ability to have a smaller, sort of tighter group where I can throw ideas around and get feedback from those Patreons as well. So I wanted to go on the record here on Still It and say that I have no intention whatsoever of moving all my videos behind a paywall over to Patreon or anything like that. Totally not my jam. The whole idea of Still It is that it's out there, that it is free and easy to access for everyone, and I do not want to change that. In saying that, of course, I will throw a few sort of behind the scenes stuff or specialty videos over there for the Patreons only. If you do want a little bit more information in terms of sort of exactly how Still It and Patreon interact with each other, and then with these videos over here as well, check the link out up here, and there is a video on that page that will describe things a little bit more for you. Alright, anyway, enough of that guys. What I do want to do is make this rum essence. And essentially what I need to do is mix some of this dunder with some of the spirit, and then you can add that back into whatever rum you like to give it more rumminess, I guess. Before I do that, I want to mention, team, that this is clean dunder. This is not what came out of the boiler after the live dunder was added. While I am fairly certain that pretty much anything that's in there that's nasty in terms of things that are alive would have been killed off after, you know, whatever it was, 4 hours of boiling the bejesus out of it. There is, of course, the concern whether or not there are toxins that were created by those bugs that are still in it, and for that reason I've decided to use the clean dunder only. Now I do think that is a topic for another video, and I think I might have to try and get a microbiologist or something like that on board to have a talk about it, because it is an interesting topic to me. Anyway, enough of that, let's mix some of this stuff up. Alright team, here's the deal. Basically what Buccaneer Bob recommends is to take dunder, mix it 50-50 with what he calls heart cut. Now I'm not sure if he literally means the middle of the run straight hearts, or whether he just means the rum you've made after blending it. I am going to just use the rum I've made after blending it. You mix the two together and then you take that concoction and add it back in at relatively low quantities into your other rums. And then based on the amount that you put back into it, he calls it silver, gold, or dark rum. I have let it settle out for a couple of weeks, and I tried to not to stir it up too much when I took this over here. But Bob does say that this is going to be very cloudy for a while. The idea is that you mix it, you let it sit somewhere nice and carefully, and then you siphon it off the top to leave all the scum in the bottom. Honestly, I don't know if that has a huge impact on flavor. I guess I could test that if I really wanted to, but I think it's more of an appearance thing. No one really likes a really murky, cloudy rum. It just kind of seems wrong. Anyway, let's get some spirit in there too. And simply because I have more of it, I'm going to use the more adventurous blend for this. This is 70% alcohol by volume, so mixing it 50-50 like this, if you don't take into account obviously the alcohol dissolving into the liquid, you're going to end up with 35%. Obviously it's going to be actually a little different from that, but... Oh, and by the way guys, if you haven't seen the actual write-up that Buccaneer Bob himself has made for this rum, make sure you check the link out down in the description, because he's done an absolutely freaking awesome job of putting it into a PDF for anyone that wants to check it out. I'm not going to link that. Go to the source and get it directly from him, and make sure you say a huge thank you for the awesome recipe while you're there. Alright team, that's it for me this week. I'll see you next time. Nah, I'm joking, I wouldn't do that to you. We gotta taste this stuff, right? And besides, I didn't log out properly, I didn't sign out properly. Before we do taste this, I want to say a huge thank you, a huge thank you to the Patreons for all of the reasons that I stated at the beginning of this video. I do thoroughly appreciate it team, and I thoroughly appreciate you as well. So thank you very much for that. I preferred the extra Buccaneer Bob's rum, so let's taste that. Now, for the dark rum, he suggests about 60 mils of this per 1,000 litres. No, 1,000 mils. So 60 to 1,000 or 6 to 100, so 6%. Obviously that's going to be pretty hard to measure out like this, so I guess I'll just have to pour a slightly larger glass, won't I? So in terms of ratios, I think I've probably added a little bit too much in here, but I'm not sure if you can see that. But essentially I've added to the point where the colour's just sort of gone to a honey-like light gold. So on the nose it brings back quite a lot of the bitter, and it gives it a almost beer-like quality, actually. Interesting. Whoa! It bumps up the banana and almost the bubblegum. But what it's really done is punched up the kick from the alcohol. It's added a acidity to it, and funnily enough it hasn't made it any sweeter whatsoever, which I guess makes sense because there isn't, you know, a whole lot of fermentable sugar or sugar at all left in there. It's definitely less, in my opinion, it's definitely less approachable, but it may just be that we've done some crazy stuff to the spirit and it needs a little bit of time to just chill and sort of mellow. You know, sometimes when you proof something down, right when you throw water into it or whatever, it goes kind of hardcore for a little while and it just needs some time to blend back together. But the sour note is really interesting. I really quite enjoy that. It's definitely more out there. It's definitely less sort of quantifiable to me. It's not something that I'm sure I've really tasted anything like this before, to be honest. And you know what? I'm going to add just a little teensy tiny bit of sugar to it. I get the feeling that the sugar is really going to bring the flavor out on this. And it's not that I'm thinking of really sweetening this artificially, but it's more that I'm thinking that the wood sugars and the tannins breaking down in this over time is going to give it the impression of sweetness, and that might really bring out the flavors. So what I have is just some cheap ass maple syrup, basically because I don't have any molasses around. Yeah, okay, so that's taken that bite off it, it's taken the kick off it, which is expected. But what it has done is bump up all of the molassesy flavors in there. So the chocolate, the dark caramel, the coffee, and just the impression of straight molasses, to be honest. Interesting. So I think there is real potential to be adding this into oak-aged versions of this. Anyway, team, in summary, I am super happy with this. I do think that I screwed the blending up a little bit simply because I couldn't taste it, and because of that I have saved all of the feints, everything. I'm thinking that I might try and do something a little bit special with those tails. Might even do something a little bit crazy, do like a live dunder fermented molasses wash and run it like that or something. I don't know, but I do want to use those tails, and I especially want to go diving down into those deep tails and look for that sort of goaty, barnyardy flavour and get some of that funk going on in there. Anyway, team, I'm much happier now that I've tasted this again. It's nice to know that I was just off my game last week, and that's why I was tasting things funny. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I would love to hear your stories of Buccaneer Bob's rum that you've made or other rums that you're working on at the moment or in the past. If you liked the video, team, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you really like it, make sure you subscribe down below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.